Hello, friend. Once again, we're back with another amazing testimony of another ex Muslim who that cannot um, reveal her identity, her face, because of the religion of peace might strike. So we are keeping her identity, but she has a powerful story, and we're going to share that with you today. Sister, I cannot usually introduce my guests, and I tell people that I'm so glad you're here and glad that you accepted my invitation, but I cannot do that in this case. But sister, tell us. I call you Sister Ex-Muslim. Please tell us what is your story and how was life as a Muslim? How did you encounter Christ, and then what is going on now?
Of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Um, I grew up in Kuwait. I was born and raised in Kuwait to a very religious Muslim family. Um, I come from two different Muslim sects. So my dad is a Sunni Muslim, and my mom is a Shia Ismaili Muslim. And the way they met and they fell in love and they got married, of course, my mom's parents were not really approving of this marriage, and eventually my mom had to leave her parents and get married. And when they were going to the sheikh to get married, they would get kicked out because the father wasn't there to give permission. Until one of them found out that she's a smiley, so they're like, "Oh, for us, we consider them kafir, so we can get you guys married. That's fine." They made her say the shahada, got them married, and then basically my mom kind of converted for a while to the Sunni religion, and after that, she decided that she didn't want to continue that. Um, And my dad was like, okay, you can follow your religion as long as you don't get the kids involved. My kids will be Sunni. She agreed to that, but secretly, she would take me to her mosque. She got like holy water on me to make me smiley, and all of this was behind my dad's back. Um, and, growing up, I had a really strict father who was very concerned about making me pray 5 times a day. Hijab was a big part. Like, every time he was like, oh, you're 7 years old now. Next year, you're going to have to wear the hijab. Um, and every year, I would try to stall, oh, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. Um, and at the same time, I was secretly following my mom's Ismaili religion. And it was all a secret. My mom would take me and be like, don't tell your dad that you're praying. Just tell him, you're playing with your friends here and stuff. Um, and because this was in Kuwait, where Ismailis, they're not really, welcomed that well. Um, the head of the mosque there asked my mom to get a signed letter from my dad that he agrees to allow me to follow the Smiley religion. And obviously, my dad wouldn't do that, right? Um, so she just wrote a handwritten letter that says, I am aware that my daughter is attending, and that's it, right? And she asked him to sign, and she's like, it's just that, you're aware that she's coming with me, but she's not part of the religion. He signed it, and after he signed it, she adds, and I have no objection for her to follow the Ismaili religion. Um, and, for me, growing up was really difficult because on one side, I had my mom, extra religious. She didn't want me to follow the Sunni religion. She would ask me to lie to my dad, that tell him you prayed and stuff, and I couldn't lie. So if my dad got home from work and asked me, "Hey, did you pray?" If I say no, of course I'd get a hit with the belt. And my mom would be smiling in the back. She'd be like, "Good, I'm proud of you." And if I say yes, my mom knows I don't lie. So if I say yes, she knows that I actually prayed. My dad would be happy. and then my mom would take me to the room and just hit me, you know. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, I grew up, you know, really confused um, between both the religions. I remember one day I came back from my mom's mosque. My mom used to lie sometimes and say we're going to visit my sister and stuff. So I came back. I was around 4 years old, and I was excited. I told my dad, "Help! You know, they splashed water on our face, and they were, you know, saying this." And my dad was like shocked. He was like, "Why would they do that?" And then he confronted my mom, and you know, it turned into a huge issue. And then my mom was like, um, she started hitting me in the room, of course, after my dad left. Um, so growing up for me was really tough. You know, two extremes. And my life felt like it was a secret from both my parents. And then of course, you know, there was that expectation that, you know, you're gonna marry a Sunni man, and Arab Sunni. My mom is Indian, by the way. My dad is Lebanese. So he was like, "Oh, you're gonna marry a Lebanese Sunni guy." My mom was like, "No, you're gonna marry an Ismaili Shia guy." um, and it got really bad. And then of course, you know, I went to a school that taught Islamic lessons. My dad was really strict about putting me in a school that would teach, you know, Islamic classes and the Quran and the Hadith and all that. And we had some, you know, Christians at school. Of course, they would, you know, take them out of the class during Islamic classes. And those teachers, those Islamic teachers, they would teach like really extreme things to us. Like, oh, you know, those people that you call your friends, they are kafir, they're not good, you shouldn't be friends with them. Um, and then, of course, they would teach, you know, like no shirk, you know, this is wrong, many things. And I started, you know, questioning, oh, mom, you know, the school told us that, you know, you cannot do shirk, so why are we praying to your imam? And of course I got slapped for that question, but um you know, I grew up really really confused. um and a lot of, like, a big part of her religion didn't really make sense to me. I mean, the whole 12.5% of your money, I had to give my pocket money to her imam, which didn't make sense to me as a kid, right? So around 14 years of age, I told my mom that I was really confused and probably not convinced in her religion, to which she did not react that well. And she stopped talking to me for 5 or 6 years of my life and living in the same house. Um, and of course, I couldn't tell my dad anything because, you know, he did not know that I was following her religion. So all he thought was like, oh, you know, they fight a lot and stuff. Me and my mom, we didn't talk for 5 years, and in that time, I started, you know, getting more religious in my dad's religion, right? Like with Sunni religion, I started going deeper. Um, I started praying, reading the Quran. I thought maybe I can convince my mom to become a Sunni. Um, and I just started, you know, going deeper into the religion. And because my mom wasn't talking, I was also like really depressed. And I would tell my dad, or I would tell any Muslim person, like, you know, I'm really depressed. I don't know how to fix this. And all they would say is like, oh, you just need to pray. You need to pray more. So I had a really religious phase where I would pray not just 5 times a day. I would also pray like the extras, the sunnah, right? Um, and it didn't help. And then they were like, "Oh, that's because you're not reading the Quran." Okay, I'm gonna read the Quran every day. Still didn't help, right? I was longing for a connection with God, and I just couldn't find that, no matter how much I tried. And then they would be like, I would be like, okay, I'm praying and I'm reading the Quran. I still feel depressed. They're like, oh, depression, it's from shaitan. You should, because you're not happy because you're not covering up, you're not wearing a hijab. Um, and then I was forced to wear a hijab at the age of 18, on my 18th birthday, actually. I wore the hijab. Still told them I feel depressed. They're like, "Oh, because you're wearing pants. You're not wearing a something to cover the shape of your body." So it was never enough. Like no matter what I did, it was never enough.
It is
And
never enough.
yeah,
And the solution that was given to you, sister, for
mhm,
solving your situation, it was more of what it wasn't working. Is that
ex-
correct?
exactly. Yeah. And the more deeper I got into the religion, the more I felt like I'm more depressed. I don't feel any connection. Um, and of course, I was still trying, I was convinced. I was like, oh no, this is the true religion. So I was trying to learn more so that I can help change my mom in a way. Um, and the more I read, the more, like, I was noticing things that were not right. Especially like the Surat Nisa in the Quran, like about the women, how women are treated, how you should beat the woman, how women aren't don't have permission to do anything without their husband's permission. Um, and the more I went deeper, the more I felt like, you know, what is this? Um, and I came to a breaking point, and one day I was crying a lot, and I just spoke to God. I said, I want to get out of this darkness. Um, And I just cried so much that night. I said, wherever you are, God, I'm trying to connect with you. I just want to get out of this darkness. I had a really bad phase of depression. That night, I went to sleep. Keep in mind, I have no background in Christianity. I've never read the Bible. I have never heard anything about Jesus. I lived in the Middle East, right? Um, I saw Jesus in my dream. And he came to me and he said, I am the light, three times. And I woke up like really confused. Um, so I looked it up. I typed in Google, Jesus, I am the light. And I get the verse, I am the light. If you follow me, you will not walk in darkness, or something like that. And I was shocked because the night before I was asking God to take me out of this darkness. Um, and then this happened when I was still in Kuwait, so I couldn't really do much there because if I renounce Islam, I could be punished with death. I couldn't do anything about it. I tried to dig a bit, but I was worried. Um, so I brushed it off. But I thought, like, after a while, I thought, you know what, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. And for 10 years, I've been an atheist. Recently, I have a friend here in the US, and we were talking. She's a Christian who married a Muslim and was forced to convert. She says she believes it, but um, I don't know. So we were just talking, and the topic of Jesus came up, and we were comparing. She's like, "Oh, in Christianity they believe Jesus is God, and in Islam is like." We were just talking, and then she told me, uh, "You should watch The Passion of Christ, the movie." And I was like, "Okay." I go home and I watch it and I start bawling. I was crying nonstop. It touched me so much. And I texted her the next day and I told her I watched the movie and I cried. She was like, "I didn't think you were gonna watch it, um, but I'm glad you did." And I told her, yeah, it was a really touching movie. And then I started remembering my experience with the dream. So I started, looking more into Jesus and Christianity. This is all recent, by the way. Um, so I'm looking into it. I remember I used to work at a restaurant, I had a pastor who was one of my customers. I was serving his table, and he was an ex-Muslim too. Um, and that time I was an atheist. And he left me his card, and I tried to contact him and stuff. So I've been trying, to contact, anyone to speak about Jesus. Look more into Jesus, into Christianity. Um, and that night, I went to sleep and I had a really bad nightmare. I saw like a demon, and it was saying, "Don't you dare say that name again." And it freaked me out. And in the dream, I was seeing like the cross being flipped upside down. And I told my friend, I was like, "Hey, I had this dream where this demon was saying, 'Don't you dare say that name again.'" And I was like flipping the cross upside down. And she started shaking. She was like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yes." And I think I'm somewhat shaking her faith in Islam again. Um, and um, now I'm just like, looking more at Jesus. I started reading the Bible, and I feel like, after I watched the Passion of Christ and how Jesus died for our sins, I I feel so bad for being an atheist. I feel so bad for not believing that. And I feel so guilty that he came to me in my dreams long ago, and I didn't even, you know, look into it. I didn't even do anything about it. Um, but yeah, I recently accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior. I'm still looking for a church to go to and share my experience. And yeah, that's my testimony.
Wow. So God used a born Christian, not a born again Christian,
Hmm.
that married a Muslim. And of
Yeah.
course, because of marriage, she was forced to convert to Islam to tell you, God used her to tell you to go watch The Passion of Christ. And then as a result of that, you remembered what
Yeah.
Jesus uh, when Jesus revealed himself in that dream to you, that I am the light. And then as a result of that, then you looked into the Christianity again, and now here you are. You accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a story. Wow.
And I'm still trying to, pull her with me to church. She said she's
You're
willing to
welcome.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of this marriage conversions usually end up backfiring on Islam because it's very unnatural. It's very forceful. It's very irrational, and
Hmm.
these I have interviewed so many Western Christian women. I'm not talking born again Christian. These were
Yes.
Christians by birth, people that nominally were Christians and then fall in love with this supposed Muslim man. And then, as a result of that marriage, they're Muslim now. They don't know what they said in Shahada. They don't know what Islam is or any of that. Just because of they think it's a culture and all that, and they fall in that trap. And then years later they come out and God knows. But I want to go
Yes.
to that the dream that you had. So you are in between a Shia Muslim and a Sunni Muslim as your father and mother,
Hmm.
and then you're confused, nothing is working, and you have this argument with your mom. She tries to influence you, your dad tries to influence you, and then this becomes so confusing. You have no answers, and then eventually you fall in such depression that you
Yes.
cry out to God that take you out of this darkness that you're in.
Yes.
And then in that very night, Jesus appears to you and says, I'm the light of this world, right?
Yes. He
Wow.
said, "I'm the light" 3 times, and I didn't know what it meant. I mean, I've never read the Bible. I've never, heard about Jesus. It was a Muslim country. We were not even allowed to look into those things, and to get that in my dreams, yeah, that was a miracle. but I
You,
couldn't do anything about it there. It was really difficult.
that's incredible. You were you were dealing with depression somehow in teenager and then in high school and all that. And then the reason that you were depressed, it was because you weren't doing enough.
Yes, it was never enough.
So you
Yeah.
your prayer weren't enough. Maybe you wearing pants. If you were skirty, you should be okay. These things that they were telling you, did it help or made your situation worse?
No, it made it worse. It made it so much worse. Um, I used to have, hobbies that I enjoyed, like skating. I used to love to skate, and the imam of the mosque there, where my dad used to pray, he used to tell him, "You're praying 5 times, and you let your daughter skate around the neighborhood and stuff." And you know, all of everything that I love was just taken away from me, and it was always like I was always expected to do more. Oh, you're not praying enough. You're not reading the Quran enough. Your faith in God is not strong. Um, you wore the hijab, yeah, but you're still wearing pants. Of course, God is not gonna love you, or not gonna be there with you. Oh, you're praying with nail polish. Obviously, you're not gonna feel connected to God. And I'm like, what kind of God is going to, look at my nail polish and not accept my prayers for that?
Exactly. What kind of God is this that when you're doing your prayer facing Mecca and
Mm-hmm.
reciting your prayers, if a dog passes or something, you get disconnected? If you put
Yeah.
nail polish or your hair show up, I remember, sister, my mom, till today,
Mm-hmm.
she would carefully push her hairs up and wear her hijab and sit in front of this god, and even
Yeah.
though we're Persians, we speak Farsi. She recites everything in Arabic, and then if, I mean, she'll doubt one hair is out, or God forbid something that she her pronunciation wasn't accurate enough, she had to go wash herself again. And I mean, it's an obsession. It is such a bondage.
It's so bad. It's so bad. I remember when I was like, when I did the wudu, I cut my finger and I was bleeding, and my dad was like, "Oh, that breaks your wudu. You're gonna have to, wash yourself again." And I'm like, "Really?" It makes no sense to me. Um,
It does
what
not.
kind of God? Yeah, it's petty.
Islam wasn't meant to make any sense, because the more you try to make sense of it, the more confusing it becomes. And
Exactly.
the thing is that these little things, within your heart, it's
Mm-hmm.
so unnatural. I mean, what kind of a God is this? So for example,
Yeah.
you can show your hair in front of God, excuse me, in front of your dad, but you cannot show your hair in front of God.
Yeah. That's one thing that didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why do I have to cover my hair when I'm praying? Or when I'm on, my period, why can't I touch the Quran? Like,
Yeah.
there were so many things that didn't make sense to me. Um, and I just, I think that's what pushed me more into my depression, because there was no connection with God.
Absolutely, it is not. There is no connection. Allah is supposed this transcendent God that is out there in way beyond human beings,
Yeah.
way beyond
Yeah.
creation. And how could you approach him? Islam is this religion that you would do these certain things and hoping that
Mm-hmm.
your problems vanishes away, or you get barakah or some sort of a blessing from Allah. But it's at the end of the day, it's absolutely darkness. You're totally blinded in the darkness, trying to find God, or trying to have answers for for your problems or for situations. And then the more you search, the more confusing it become. God is
Yeah.
my witness. I Everything you say, I just I have gone through it cell by cell as a Muslim.
It's terrible.
The deeper you dive in this religion, instead of you get some answers, it becomes actually more confusing.
More questions. And I remember when I had that dream of Jesus in Kuwait, I joined, I went to an Islamic chat thing to speak to someone who was an expert, basically. And I was like researching more about Jesus, and I found out like in the Quran, Jesus, did a lot of miracles that Muhammad didn't do. So I was asking these questions, and he was like, "Sister, you are too young to go this deep into the religion. You don't know anything. Even if you're only 20 years old, you're still a child." And I'm like, "Is that your way of saying you don't have an answer for me?" It's messed up.
Exactly. And so that's very, very interesting. I promise you that I'll send you some books um, that you could read alongside the Bible itself, and it's going to help your faith, sister. I'm just so glad that you reached out, and this is awesome. What a powerful story you have. You're in the right
Yeah.
path. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the truth, and no, Jesus is life. No one comes to the Father except through Him. You're in the right
Yeah.
path. Of course, after this program, I'll talk to you a little more and help you to get connected to a good church, and also send you some books that could tremendously help
Yeah.
your faith and your relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. So that's
Would love
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's only been a few weeks since this incident happened, since I accepted Jesus, since I watched that movie. But I feel so much lighter. I feel so much at peace. Um, as an atheist, I had like anger issues. I was like short tempered. I was always, upset. But these last few weeks, even my friend told me, she's like, I can see a change in you. You look happy. You feel happy. You know.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and this is just a few weeks, whereas years of me praying to Allah, I didn't feel this kind of peace at all.
There is no peace. Allah is Al Mutakabbir. He
Yes.
doesn't have peace to give you. So
Yep.
that's awesome. And then I promise you, I'm your older brother in the Lord. I have been accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior 20 years now, and every year is getting better. Every year I'm learning more. I'm growing closer in my relationship with Him, and He's awesome. Jesus is
Yeah.
awesome, and He just wants to bless you. And you are His daughter. He has created you. He knows everything about you. He sees you. He has visited you to bring you out of Islam. And thank God for Jesus that you're here.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome. Uh, you bless me. I'm so thankful that you reached out. Of course, you were asking for my book, and have we sent you yet? One?
Yes, I got the book. I'm reading through it.
Yes, folks. This
Yeah.
is the book called "Forsaking My Father's Religion." The religion of Islam was forced upon us in Kuwait, in Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Turkey. No one, no one in Middle East that decided, oh wow, this beautiful religion, man, we like Islam. Let's accept Islam. The message of Islam is pretty and wonderful, and let's all uh, gather around fire and sit kumbaya. No, they brought the sword upon our fathers, our forefathers, and they told them, like the Egyptians, they told them, if you don't speak Arabic, we cut your tongues. And the Coptics, the Egyptians, were forced to speak Arabic. They tried to do that to the Iranian people, to the Persians, because of the poet and some Iranian cultural poets and people that we had. They fought, so we kept our language, or we would have spoken Arabic, but they accepted. They were forced to be taslim and surrender to Islam for the sake of their lives. And then, now you heard my testimony of my sister. Just few weeks now, she has abandoned her father's religion, forsaken her father's religion. It's not her religion. It wasn't even her father's religion. It just was pushed for. One generation was killed and forced to submit and surrender to Islam, and then 14 centuries later we're inheriting this religion. But so many people are awakening to this truth now and leaving and abandoning and forsaking Islam for good. and you see the result on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you share this everywhere. And Sister, if you don't have anything else to add, I am ready to close this hour.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone can find Christ the way I did.
Awesome. I hope that too. You're a blessing. God bless you, folks. Until next.